So I've never done this before, but I've been seeing a lot of videos on my feed from content creators popping up certain topics about video games. Um, a big one that comes to mind is Asmongold with his views on, Diablo Immortals, Lost Ark, Final Fantasy, World of Warcraft. Um, then you got Rex Track on his Diablo take. You have other creators like Jackus, who was talking about why current video games or video games in general kind of suck, and then the view from Josh Strife about how talking about old MMOs feeling better to play. Now, my like hot take um, on these types of topics pertains to the game of MapleStory. I've been playing this game for almost 20 years. And, with most games that old, there have been a lot of ebbs and flows regarding the content and the direction that the game is heading. Um, Now, I've never produced any content on this game, so if you're looking for more info on it and this and that, I'd check out channels like Copperson or the Aaron. If you're interested in like patch updates and general information. Um, Now, I'm going to preface that majority of these opinions I know will be mainly held in a nostalgic basis, um, which is usually the factor when it come, when you've been playing a game for as long as that. But I do feel like some of these points will resonate with people. Um, and I feel like there's usually three core tenets, you could say, when it comes to like an MMO or an RPG. And that would probably consist of like leveling progression, gear progression, or crafting system, and general like exploration. Now I started in the beta server, and before the game was released in North America in like 2005. And as you can see here, um, Scania was the first channel or world, whatever you want to call it, that was released, where I had a lot of my main, or I had my main that I was playing. Now, as a beta player, you receive this item here, which has complete garbage stats, and it doesn't look that great to begin with. But as it states, it's the mark of the beta, and so there was no other way that you could get it, and it was kind of nice to rock from time to time around the world or around the server. Now, shortly after, they introduced Bera, and that was just to really lighten the load of Scania, because it was the only one there and it was overpopulated. And Bera kind of became my new home. So as you can see, my roster is a lot bigger here. I have 41 out of 43. This is my 42nd, but he doesn't count because I made him just for like this video's sake. But this is where I did majority of my playing, and majority of my playing was done on the Explorer class. The Explorer class is your basic, warrior, mage, thief, archer, and later on they introduced the pirates. And this Destiny patch revamped all of the Explorer classes. Now, all of these classes had subclasses. So, warriors became fighters, paladins, or dragon knights. Mages became priests, ice lightning mage, fire mage, etc., etc. But the benefit to playing one of these guys was you just instantly loaded in, created your character. You were level one. They showed you how to attack, how to jump, how to pick up an item, and you were on your way. So, in regards to the first kind of tenant that I was talking about with leveling progression in this game, it's kind of taken like a full 360 approach. So how you level, where you level, how fast you level, all have really made the game unfun, um, for someone like me. Now I'm not advocating that the way leveling used to be was way better, because there was a lot of misery in there. Um, However, they've essentially made the first two-thirds of um, the game obsolete with the numerous changes over the years. And so, in my opinion, I think that they should just remove those levels from 1 to 200. Now, max level in the game used to be capped at 200. Then it went to 225, 250, 275, and it's currently at 300. Um, and this is great. I'm glad that they're pumping out new content into the game, trying to keep people invested, reaching newer heights, goals, whatever, But it's the way that they've gone about it that really sucks. Most new classes, if you were to create one, like Lara or Kane, Adele, um, you know, Oh Young, um, most of them are accompanied with a 45 plus minute like storyline slash interactive video before you can actually get into the gameplay. And once you're done all of that, you've essentially made it to your second job advancement, if not higher. And job advancements are broken into level brackets of, at level 10, you get your first job advancement, at level 30, your second, at level 60, your third, 100, your fourth, and 200, your fifth. But after most of these storyline videos are done, you're roughly in the like level 30 to 50 range, essentially skipping all of your first job and most, if not all, your second job. Now, I mean, this isn't a huge deal to most people because, um, who really wants to do the beginning content? But after this, the like experience curve that's been introduced into the game now has made leveling extremely fast. If I can pull this up here. So, um, outside of leveling really quickly now, MapleStory has also introduced these burning events, which allows you to essentially burn a new character from level 10 forward or an existing character that of your choice. And what this burning event does is instead of gaining one level, you gain, they say two, but it's technically three levels. Because if you start your burning character at level 10, instead of going from 10 to 11, you go 10 to 13, then 13 to 16, and then 16 to 19, etc., And, with that being said, it actually makes quite a lot of the game's content irrelevant. And since you're leveling so fast, you're passing a lot of quests, you're missing a lot of gear. And as I said, even without these burning events, this EXP curve has um, made it so that you could just go to YouTube and search up MapleStory power leveling, and there's a handful of videos, level 10 to 219 minutes, 1 to 200 in under 2 hours, 10 to 200 in an hour. This guy did it in 13 minutes. These are a little bit older, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but they also have videos, you know, level 30 to 200, no burning, but with leveling up potions. And, you know, don't get me wrong, I understand these guys are well prepared. They have their experience boosters, they have spawn increasers, they have leveling potions. They're using like the optimal places to gain experience. But if this was the older Maple, not like when I started, but kind of in between of now and before. Um, you'd need to actually play the game, and usually that consisted of playing with other players too. Certain classes like the priest, they could give you a boost in experience with one of their abilities, and training with a party member actually rewarded you more experience, which then incentivized sharing training maps. Um, Doing quests also gave you good experience. Granted, sometimes repetitive, but that is what it is. But now this game has slowly moved into more of a solo play style, and like sometimes you can have a friend around, but they don't benefit you, I don't feel. And leveling just goes so fast up to 200 now that it's at 200 where the grind finally begins. So what kind of felt like a grind from like level 1 to 200, now it's from 200 to 300. And don't get me wrong, I understand that, like, I do agree that you should be focusing on end game content like the 2 to 300 range, but then you're only essentially focusing on one third of the game. Um, and that just doesn't seem to make sense to me. Um, and then, with that being said, how fast you're leveling kind of rolls into the next point that I had, which would be like your gear progression. Gear's also always something that you're looking forward to in an MMO or an RPG. Whether you find something in a raid, find something from a boss, just grinding. And MapleStory really um, had a good grasp of that, of like how it made you feel equipping a new weapon or equipping new armor. Like, you were now able to do slightly more damage to a monster or take more hits so you could survive longer. However, with like the current state of MapleStory, not only is most gear irrelevant, because again, you're leveling so fast that you're just bypassing it all. Um, the MapleStory now just gives you armor sets for free as long as you hit these level breaks. So, uh, these are the rewards you get when you create a burning character. And so you get like a level 30 box, you get a level 100 box, then you get a level 150 box. And yes, this gear is on a time limit of 3 months, but it gives you already automatic enhancements, epic lines, a lot of like kind of end game stuff, I guess. Um, and while you have this for that 3 month period, you could find the actual items of these and then just put those on. And so you don't actually have to do anything with older gear or gear that you find. Like you could just toss all that away until you actually find this stuff, because they just give you it all for free. And it comes with like a packed amount of stats, especially when you have the full set on. And on top of that, it requires no brain power. Like back in the day, you actually needed to know what your character required in terms of its stats. So mages, they mainly focused on intelligence, but they needed a little bit of luck in order to equip, weapons or gear. And, same with archers and thieves. Warriors were the only ones where you only needed strength, but you actually did need dexterity to be able to hit monsters that you were training on. You can see here now they've actually removed the luck component, and it's just intelligence. And I understand for newer players, this is kind of a bonus for them, because now you have less error of screwing up your character, because you don't need to know the formulas that you would use, or how to min max your character with like being low luck or no luck as a mage and stuff like that. Um, but I feel like this takes away from experiencing how the game was intended to be played. Um, and they've implemented this auto assigning button as well, where as soon as you level, okay, so this character doesn't have it just yet. Hold on. So here they have this auto assign button. You click that, it tells you it's going to pump everything into intelligence. You hit OK, and Bob's your uncle. Now, again, this probably falls into the nostalgia category of how I remember how you used to play the game and the struggle, having to put your points up one by one here. And, if they ever did a big update or some sort of server wipe, you'd have all of this removed and, all your points would be refunded and you have to do them individually. The auto assign was very convenient at that time. But once they removed the second attribute that was required in each class, this just became lazy, you know? And now that they've reworked all of the classes as well, all of your abilities get to be maxed. Um, it's a small gripe again because this was something that you needed to actually take time and effort into figuring out. You had a few options. You could look it up online. If you had a guildie or a guild, you could ask them. If you had a friend who was playing a little bit longer than you, maybe they could give you some help. But it also just allowed you to, like, if you ever ran into, like, if you just went to channel one, 9 times out of 10, you would run into a higher level person, and you could just ask them, and they would help you. It's just kind of how like communities were formed and friendships were made, and um now, like I said, it's just kind of more of a solo play. The system is very dummy proof, and I'm sure some people like that. But again, there's like, what's the challenge? Where is the challenge? Um, and now with any kind of gear system or crafting system, um, you have to augment certain weapons. Lost Ark, you have to do the same thing with like gems and stuff like that. And in this game, um, you have what they call cubes. And cubes require real world money. Now, for MapleStory, this kind of took a turn for the worst in terms of their player base, because when they had introduced PvP for a short amount of time, and during PvP it was very apparent who was going to be winning these fights, simply because people spent money in the cash shop, and so the game was a pay to win aspect at that point. um they did remove it, um but the game is now pushed more into a pay to play realm. And I say that because, as I just showed, in order to get to like end game content, you need to purchase those cubes, which will augment your gear. Um, and if you technically don't spend money, then you don't really advance. They have, oops, sorry, they have introduced an event list where you can win rewards from completing these events, like cubes and scrolls. And they also have a daily gift list. Oh, which Let me get on to my other character to show you. So the daily gift list. If you play for 14 days, you get a cube. If you play for 27 days, you get a cube. If you play for, 28 days, you get the rarest cube. Um, but I mean, if you're not playing for a solid month or coming back constantly to get these, you have to spend money. Um, Now Nexon did receive quite a lot of backlash, I guess, for this, and their response to this was they actually created a server called Reboot right here, which allows you to use in-game currency to purchase now these cubes, um, which is a fantastic idea. I think that was a great solution. However, Nexon is still a company that wants to make money, and so they've essentially left the rest of the cash shop uh, requiring real money. Now, another caveat to going to the reboot server is that you have to start from scratch. They don't allow you to transfer a single character over from any other world. No items, no money, etc. Which then forced about, I'd say, 90+% of the community to switch over from their home, quote unquote, to this one just to enjoy the game or be able to play like end game content. Now, not only has that made a lot of the regular servers quite dead, it has oversaturated the reboot server. And the server, normally all of these lines are completely full, which causes a shit ton of lag, a lot of DCs like disconnecting, overpopulated training spots or money farming spots. And I mean, as you can see here, this only ever looked like this when Scania was the only world created. And this now would only look like this on channel 1, where there was a free market, people would all gather to like sell, trade, this and that. It was the most popular map just because it was the first map, or first channel, I should say. Now all of the channels are like that in Reboot. And Reboot has even increased from all the other worlds having only 20 channels. Reboot has 30 channels, and it's still extremely laggy, disconnected, overpopulated, blah blah blah. And with all the maps being that overpopulated, um, you then lose the general exploration that, I think is also important in the game. You know, there used to be a time where exploring a new map was fun, intriguing, sometimes a little bit scary. You never knew if you were going to be killed by the monster on the map or if you could go toe to toe with them, and then maybe that would be your training spot. You know, Exploring actually developed concepts of like where you should train, what would be ideal. And then if it wasn't the optimal place, you at least kind of got an idea of like an alternative location to train. Um, Now getting around actually required like real world time, and not everything was very automated as it is in the game right now. And I say that in terms of the game to me feels like it's getting so automated that it's going to become an AFK type game. I don't think it will, but it kind of feels like that as it's transitioning through all its different phases. And I'm not going to be a hypocrite um, and say like a lot of these travel inconveniences didn't help me in the game. Um, I've definitely taken advantage of the conveniences, and one of them was when they first introduced teleportation rocks. So This item here was originally how they started it off. Then they went to the VIP rock, and then they went to the hyper rock. And the VIP rock by far was the most useless one. It only allowed you to travel within the continent that you were in. So I could only travel here or here. So I could go from like this spot of the island to this spot of the island. There was no cross continental travel. Um, until they introduced the VIP rock. With the VIP rock, you actually were able to now save maps on this list or save towns that you wanted to go to. You could still, if you had a friend on a map, you could type in their name and go to them. But again, you could either, these were only one time use. So you could either buy one single rock or I think five at the time and a bundle of five. But if you used one, you really needed to be aware of where, like what you were doing, like where you were going. If you really needed to go there, if you needed to go there fast, then yeah, use it. Otherwise, you'd take the long way. Until they introduced this item, the Hyper Rock, which to me is kind of broken, you know. And I love it. Don't get me wrong, I love this item. This rock had a limited time on it. So most items in the cash shop are about a 90-day cycle. This item's max time cycle was 30 days. However, unlike the VIP rock, which was a one-time use, this one had unlimited uses within that time frame. And this one you could just click on a spot on the map. Will you teleport to this map? Yes. And because I have the rock, it teleports me automatically. Um, and they also did it with some of the other items in the cash shop, like pets. And however, they quickly took it away after a short while because they realized how much money, I guess, eventually they would be losing. Um, Now, as you can see here, um, this pet underneath his name says permanent, meaning this item doesn't ever go away. Whereas a normal pet in the cash shop, as I mentioned, had a 90-day, as you can see under his name, it says magic duration 90 days. And once those 90 days were over, your pet would, as you see here, the water of life has dried up. So, in order to revive your pet, you then needed to come back into the cash shop and buy this, the water of life. And as you can see, this is a hot item, so a lot of people are buying it. Um, but once you use this item to revive your pet, it was only alive again for another 90 days. And then it would die again. You'd have to buy that again, and so on and so forth. So having a permanent pet really comes in handy. And same with this permanent hyper rock. I don't have to worry about spending money on this again. Now, my gripe with this is that Nexon decided to introduce a new UI system, which is a guide. And this guide gives you recommended quests as well as recommended hunting zones, which I think is fantastic. This is great, especially if you're ever stuck, you don't know where to go, you don't know what to do. You could easily click one of these and it can help you. My problem is that it now gives you a fast travel option. And so if I were to click move, it instantly teleports me to the area. Um, if I want to go back here, it instantly teleports me back to this area. Now, in my opinion, I think they should have implemented something where when you click this, it pops up the world map and tells you where you need to go. So that, again, exploration is still kept within this game. Now everything is click here, move, click here, move. If I want to go to a town, I click a town. if I want to go to an area that's not in the recommended and I've already been there or killed those mobs, I can return there no problem. This item also allows for cross-continental travel as well. Essentially, making I'm now over here when I was over here. So this has essentially made the hyper rock in a way obsolete. And you know, I am a little bit salty on this because again, I did spend my own money to purchase this, especially when they introduced the permanent items, to get around the constant gouging of us in terms of purchasing it over and over and over again. But in the end, I still get boned. And if I had the ability to transfer, one of these characters over from the Bera server to the reboot server, and I could bring some of my items over, that'd be fantastic. It doesn't need to be every single character I own here. It could just be the one that I play the most. But it doesn't just stop there because this UI system also has special content where you can get, instantly moved to, but bosses. And, you know, during travel, um, you would always run into other people. People either were going the same way as you or they were trying to get somewhere and you could kind of help them get there. Sometimes if you didn't even know where you were going, 9 times out of 10, somebody would stop what they were doing and show you how to get to where you want to be. And especially in terms of bosses, getting to a boss was sometimes like half the fun or a challenge on its own. And you would feel rewarded from just getting there, even if you didn't fight him or beat him. Now, all I have to do now is click the picture of the boss I want to fight, click move to boss, and hit go. And I am now in the boss area. To me, this is so stupid. And again, I get it's convenient for a lot of people because back in the day, getting to a boss either required, a party, a guild, so on and so forth. Some effort, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But now you don't need that. So this, in a way, is just sucking the life out of the game, in my opinion. And as I've stated, 2/3 of this game is virtually not needed at this point. Everyone now goes to like the same 10 maps to get to level 200 quickly. And then once they're in the 200 to 300 range, it's just a constant fight to the death for like a certain map to train on. Because if you don't get that map, your experience per level will be greatly reduced, your money per hour will be greatly reduced, and you just kind of slowly fall behind. Now, all that being said, um, I'm sure majority of the community that plays MapleStory is happy with all these changes. Essentially, I'm the boomer when it comes to this game, seeing as I've been playing it for almost 2 decades now. So if you want, let me know in the comments how you feel about, what I've been saying. I feel like most people will only know this version of MapleStory because of how the game has been heading in this direction with every update. Um, but to go back to what Josh Strife mentioned, like I do feel that old MMOs accomplished that feeling that most players wanted when they played these games. Hopefully this video wasn't too long of a rant. As I said, I've never done this before, but thanks again for watching and take care.